we fine? Oh gosh, sorry. Hello, good afternoon. It is Eastern Standard Time, and this is Community Conversations. I am your host, Nadia Headley, and I am happy to be bringing yet another week of conversation to our community table. Um, Lots have been going on in the world, hasn't it? It's been a very time. The world seems to be turned on its head, upside down. And there are lots of people who would love us to pay attention to what they're doing and the decisions that they're making and how they impact our lives. But we're not going to give it that level of focus because that's not what we do here. What we do here is we talk about things that matter most to our community. We started a conversation last week. So if you didn't catch it and you are listening to us live on radio, or you're catching this replay, then do yourself a favor and go to YouTube at Love Bay Radio so that you can check out last week's episode. But we started talking about uh, the World Bank's report in the Caribbean. Um, and with that report, we were looking at the fact that, yes, we can do with education reform in the Caribbean, but was the proposal for reform in the best interest of Caribbean youth was the particular question. And so while we have been working closely with throughout the English speaking Caribbean, for example, with the CXC, CSEC, and CAPE, so we talked about the difference between the two. CSEC being the Caribbean version of the British ordinary level exam levels, and CAPE being the Caribbean version of the A level exam. And the statistic that was that 5% of youth in Caribbean are passing 5 or more exams. Unfortunately, have taken to mean that 5% of all Caribbean youth in English speaking passing exams. So we talked about making sure that we understand how statistics work and what exactly it is that's being said in the report. So we're going to continue along that thread today, and we're going to talk specifically about what youth need in the Caribbean. And I'm really happy for us to be able to have this conversation. This particular organization is very near and dear to my heart. Do your research and you'll find out what I mean. So, we normally have break down our segmentation because we started the conversation on the status of educated youth need. And we're going to be having more conversations coming up with representatives from Barbados, the governmental levels. So stay tuned for the next couple of weeks as we dig deeper into this conversation. Now, I am Barbadian, just in case the accent did not give it away. And therefore, a lot of people that I know tend to come from Barbados. So between Barbados and Canada, you've seen our guests come to the stage. But what's really important, they're also able to give us a regional perspective with a full understanding of the Caribbean single market economy and CARICOM, or the Caribbean community, if you're not familiar with that language. And as we in the Caribbean face all sorts of things together, including the threatening of government officials throughout the region to have their US visas stripped from them if they continue to support Cuba, in case you weren't checking in on your Caribbean news, that's a thing, that's happening. And so, while we're dealing with all of these things on and together as a community, these are conversations we need to have that actually impact our children, our future, what we need to be doing. So let's stay focused, right? And not get caught up in the distractions and continue moving forward. And so we are going to jump into our main conversation today with a very special guest, a very good friend of mine, dare I say, my little sister even. Asantie Murrell is a multifaceted consultant from Barbados with impactful accountability, and social entrepreneurship. With experience spanning international, regional, and local organizations across the non-for-profit and public sectors, she has such initiative and for small enterprises for education and development charity dedicated to empower people, and for its discussion series, Getting to the Root. Communities that will help them become the best versions of themselves. And I will add what she has not put here because I will toot her horn so much more loudly. But Asantie is one of those bright stars that in and fills a room. And when you come into contact with a person who is as intelligent and as strategic as she is, but still so dedicated to her personal learning and personal development, that is like the magic dust of what you need for a strong international global leader. And sitting here with me, I welcome on stage Ma'am Asantie Murrell. Thank you for joining us.
Hi. Following that, I'm like, whoa, I hope that I have impressive.
Just speak for the audience. Yeah, it'll be fantastic.
No, but thank you so much for that. I'm very happy to be here and engage in such an important and timely conversation, given the work that Seed is doing, that I'm contributing to my fellow ambassadors are contributing to. So really happy to be here today.
Wonderful. Thank you. Well, we're celebrating Women's History Month.
Yes.
And we're talking about women who are making history right now. And every generation has cried down the young people, right? If you ask your parents, I'm sure their grandparents thought their music was confusion. And how are the young people dressing these days? I know the young people don't work as hard as we do. And every generation has had about the same commentary for youth. Oh, we don't know where the world is going and all of these different things. And yet we are still here. Humanity persists, continues to thrive. And every time a young person is given an opportunity to rise above and beyond, they've taken that opportunity, right? Or we wouldn't have amazing leaders today because they had to be young at one point, right? And so we could sit and bemoan the things that are different. I mean, my daughter is 10 years old and I have no idea what she's listening to. And I've just committed myself to, I'm now old, right? I am now out of it, right?
I think I'm glad to still be a part of the youth conversation because I feel like I'm slowly aging out of that.
I think it's slow at the beginning and then it's a sudden jump when you realize that the world has gone on and you thought you were in, but now if I say Riz, my 10-year-old will cringe. Right? I'm not allowed anymore. But you're here representing Seed. And I see your shirt marked micro macro. So I will ask you a little bit about that as well. But what is Seed? How did Seed come to be? How was Seed started?
Yeah, no problem. So Seed, Small Enterprises for Education and Development, is a local charity in Barbados, founded, by a woman leader in research and in implementation. And this research our founder embarked on was to look at how private sector and their corporate social responsibilities could contribute positively to youth in Barbados, developing them personally and professionally, and advancing lifelong learning, not just in Barbados, but also as we could expand into the Caribbean. Because, yes, we're in Barbados, but we're looking for, the development and advancement of youth, throughout the region, as we all benefit and contribute to what we can do, how we can do more for young people, and also their contribution to the world, as you were mentioning before, in terms of, young people having a specific perspective and view on things, something new, something fresh. And Seed is looking to and has been contributing to that in terms of providing services and initiatives that would be able to empower young people and give them opportunities that they would be able to learn in terms of professionally, but also personally. You mentioned micro macro. I have on my shirt right now. This shirt is coming up 8 years old.
Wow, would I be able to fit into anything from 8 years ago? No.
8 years ago, almost 8 years ago, I would have seen a post on Facebook for a internship, a youth internship for employment opportunities to advance myself, to be able to learn and engage with other young people, etc. And I saw this post and I was like, oh, this looks interesting. I clicked on it. There was a form that you needed to fill out, your contact information, etc. But then one part of it was to identify 3 areas of interest for your career. And I really thought about it. At that time, my other life before, I wanted to be a diplomat. So my first choice was diplomacy. I can't remember the other 2 choices, but I was like, you know what, it's a long shot, but just in case it's possible, that was what I would have selected. And then coming out of that, I heard back having a slot for an interview to be accepted to the internship program. Because Micro Macro is an internship program open to 15 to 21-year-olds here in Barbados, so that they can be placed with a small or medium-sized enterprise here in Barbados and embark on a training opportunity in, like I said, the areas of interest that they would have selected, or something as close as possible to what they would have selected. The duration of the program is 6 weeks. 4 weeks in your actual placement. The first week is training. So what we would have done would have been looking at things like interviews, how to dress, how to write your resume, your CV, how to, interact in the workplace, things of that nature for the first week. And then you go through your placement for the next 4 weeks. And then you come back in the final week as kind of a, wrap up what have you learned, the outputs of your placement, and then just kind of a celebratory occasion for having interacted with a cohort of other young people, but also being exposed to an area of interest that you would have identified, and having tangible work experience coming out of the program. So I would have done that in 2017. Dare I say it was a life-changing experience, not just, having participated, but having met you, Nadia, and knowing one another from since then. So looking at Seed as an organization and how it, comes out of research, and how important that is to, do, the primary, secondary research, but having it be an actual implementable program, such as Micro Macro and some of the other programs that we'll probably talk about later, that are, very research focused and data driven in terms of how do we really support young people here in Barbados and across the Caribbean. I've been rambling, but one last thing. I came into Seed, or into knowing Seed, at I think a pretty pivotal time, going through a revamp process. And I think that's one of the things I really appreciated was understanding that this process was geared to, we're an organization founded to, support youth, but how do we do that most effectively? How do we do that really addressing the pertinent issues of young people? And in this particular internship program, being tasked with doing research for just that, and engaging with local organizations that either had, a similar youth focus or a youth arm, or, just anything that kind of generally touched the youth development space, and doing that research and being able to compile that research into, what really are some spaces where we could try to address as an organization, and be sure that we are very targeted in our response to some of the issues and challenges that these are facing. So I thought that was, a really worthwhile experience for myself, and I believe that I speak for the others that would have been in my cohort, and before and after. I'm really appreciative of this approach and piece of youth development here in Barbados.
Mhm. So tell us a little bit about your specific project as an intern. You talked about doing research and supporting a revamp process.
Yeah.
Tell us about what your task was and how you went about doing it. And
yeah. Okay. Yeah. So we were tasked with, and I mean myself, and I was partnered with an incredible young man. Shout out to Samuel. And we were tasked with doing primary research with, like I say, youth organizations, or those that were even remotely contributing to youth policy advocacy, implementation, etc. To really find out what are the areas in which SEED could better support youth initiatives here in Barbados. And having done, I suppose, smaller scale research, coming out of school at that point, where you do your SBAs and everything. This was, I would say, like more on a larger scale in terms of being able to reach out to organizations that had a national focus. We spoke to several of those, and looking at organizations across sectors, whether that be private sector, whether that be public sector, or other nonprofits in the space, and finding out what was their contribution, what their experience had been in terms of what initiatives they had, whether that be in sport or volunteer or creative industries or business, etc. And looking at what the perspectives were on, we're doing all of these things, where are the gaps? Where are the spaces that, we're not seeing being addressed, or not being addressed sufficiently? And we would have, hosted interviews with persons in those organizations. And shout out to those organizations as well, because not only to just talk to us, to young people, just asking a bunch of questions, but it was really helpful. It was a really worthwhile exercise in terms of being able to go from like really point zero to actually developing a report. And what I mean from point zero is developing a list of who we wanted to speak to, developing the questionnaire of what we wanted to ask them, the targeted questions, so that we could get the data that we needed to be able to support the revamp process that this research was contributing to. Contacting persons, scheduling the interviews with them, sometimes going, on site, planning the logistics of it all, compiling the data at the end into a report that would have been like, our final deliverable. And really acting in, kind of this grown-up consulting capacity at the time, and really being trusted to create the high level of work that we did. I'm really proud of that, between myself and my intern partner who I worked with. So that level of research, seeing seed come out of research and having something implementable, it was, a much needed push to see that, we can do this research also, and then have, something positive and something tangible come out of it also, that would also continue to help young people, not just like myself, but, those that would go on to interact with the program, but also the organization as a whole.
Thank you. Yeah. And I found an article before. I'll make sure that we post the link below the video. So if you're listening to us live through the app, you may be listening to us on the website, through the app from I'm blanking on words, Apple, Apple Play or Google Play or App Store is what the Apple people call it. I'm sorry, I don't do Apple. The App Store or Google Play. Or if you are watching us on any of the other platforms online, I'll make sure that the link is posted on YouTube. So go over to YouTube at Love Bay Radio so that you can see that link afterwards. And remember, hashtag live or hashtag replay, and let me know when you're catching us. So, but in the article, I saw that you interviewed organizations, like some we'd recognize, like the Key Club, like some local charities, but you're also a minister, a city minister in Parliament, and some United Nations officials. So tell us, how old were you and your partner?
I was 20 or 21 at the time, and I believe my partner was 2 years younger at that point in time. So we were both like kind of out of that secondary space into that college, university space at the time. And thank you for reminding me, because our internship was actually, I want to say, extended by, I believe, 2 weeks, because we had, such support from those organizations that you mentioned. Yes, it would have been, Key Club. We had the National Sports Council. We had the sitting minister for youth and culture at the time, Right Honorable Stephen Lashley, who took the time to sit and have that interview with us. That was it was nerve-wracking, but it was very exciting to, go down to the ministry, sit in the big room.
And ask the minister questions.
And ask the minister questions, it being central to his mandate of the ministry that he. So it was a very exciting and humbling experience, and one that I think really added to all that we were able to do at that time. And then also we got to sit with several UN agencies, Barbados being the Center for Barbados and the Eastern Caribbean, having an office here. Several of the organizations are housed at UN House Barbados. And we spoke to, I would say, about 5 of them: UNFPA, ITC, UN Women, and a few others as well. We had a wonderful program coordinator who was able to connect with the coordinator at the UN at the time. And we were able to go into their UN space and interview them, kind of in a rolling fashion.
What was that like, rolling up to UN House in Barbados? Because it's quite an impressive building, just the building on its own, right?
Yeah, I know. I had to take some pictures outside. I said, this happened. So yeah, it was, a level of seriousness, I would say, having being addressed there, and just going into the building and understanding the protocol that had to happen, to get into the room and to address everyone. But honestly, and to your point earlier that leaders now were young people before, I really got that vibe from those that we had interviewed. And being told as much, like, the work that you're doing, this is very impressive, it's very timely, and everyone being so responsive and supportive to the interviews and to giving their perspective, even in as high level and formal as that setting was. Still being able to acknowledge that we're young persons who are having this really great, really awesome experience, and wanting to encourage us and support us at the time, while also very much contributing positively as we asked questions, as we learned about their perspectives and what those specific organizations are doing in the youth space, in ensuring that us are able to address youth issues. It was an incredible exercise. Definitely, I think prepared us, helped prepare us for moving forward in addressing persons who we believe can assist the organization, looking at a model for collaboration and partnership, and being able to feel confident in doing something similar, perhaps in the future.
Now, you said you originally applied and you put in diplomacy and maybe a couple other things. Did you expect this internship to actually provide you with diplomatic international relations experience?
I wasn't super confident, because I know that's a very specific area, but I did know that I wanted to take the chance and still put it, even if it was a long shot. And again, kudos to our coordinator and the team for actually being able to set that up, and having an experience that was definitely aligned with that, so that you can even get a glimpse of what it was like. I feel like sometimes you're like, I want to do this, and it's like
which is actually a hidden benefit of internships, and I don't think all parents understand that. It's about clarity. And knowing what you don't want is just as good as knowing what you do want, right? So
I agree.
Take note, parents, as we talk about what youth needs today: experience, right, and opportunities for clarity. Now, you've told us how you've become involved in SEED and your experience with micro macro. You talked about in your conversation nations and some of the youth related organizations that they talked about your research being timely and important. Why are organizations on the ground like SEED important?
I can start off by what you just said, because I think that exposure is very important. I know that you have dreams, and that this is something that I may want to do when you're around, because remember, the internship is from 15 to 21. So this is when you are either going into, or you are in fifth form, like a pivotal time when you're choosing, or you have chosen what subjects you believe you want to pursue for the rest of your academic career, straight up to when you might starting, finishing university, as in you've chosen something that you wanted to pursue at the undergraduate level. So I think exposure is what is really important in terms of allowing young people to have certain opportunities where they can, be exposed and be able to even initially pursue what they believe to be their area of interest at the point in time, maybe hone in on something more specific. Yes, I want to do computer science, but maybe I specifically want to learn a code, or maybe no, I want to be on the more fixed side of things or anything like that. And like I said, in my experience in terms of diplomacy and choosing field work is what really made me be like, yeah, this is the point at which I see myself aligned with. This is what I actually specifically wanna pursue. So I think that is one of the really key points in why organization like this is so pivotal in order to have young people have the opportunity for exposure. Another point that I would try to that I would like to make is in terms of it being the bridge between small enterprises and youth development and education, employment and youth employment. Looking at statistics, as you would have pointed out earlier, and seeing, I believe we're just shy of 25% of 2023. That's a quarter of young persons. I believe it's age 16 to 24. And looking at that and understanding that young people really need the chance and the opportunity to be able to have a nurturing to be prepared for the world of work. Like I mentioned in the micro macro internship that I and numerous others have been placed by Seed and had the fortunate experience of being placed with an organization to gain experience in different types of organizations at different levels, and to be able to actually have that hands-on experience that they can build on and reference as they move further into their careers and what they want to pursue thereafter. And I would have been looking for an opportunity at the time that was more relevant to what I was studying at the time. And I was glad for an opportunity such as the internship to be able to do that and to be able to learn from persons in the space that would have come to speak to us that I would have been working with closely in my own project. I think those types of opportunities are invaluable in terms of preparing us as young people to be able to, make our mark in the world of work, to contribute positively, to, get insight into how we can be most beneficial and how we can contribute in a way that is, specific to, the fervor and the vibe that young people bring to organizations and the workplace. I will also say, in terms of what would have come out of our research, just doing the research in and of itself was beneficial, but understanding that overwhelmingly what would have come out of our research would have been one of the areas that young people can be supported would have been mentorship. And that is, I can speak from my own experience, having quite a few mentors since that point, that it is a crucial part of development. If you see someone who is, doing the work that you can see yourself doing, or they are contributing to something that you can see yourself contributing to, and actually being able to be advised, be guided, not necessarily told that you need to do this and this, but in terms of like being able to be recognized and guided throughout the process. That has been very beneficial to me. I know it's been beneficial to others, Nadia being one, and having a few others as well. And this just goes back to the point I was making, and young persons who are looking to get into their space or into their field, and they're more than willing and happy to be able to assist and to help. So looking at mentorship and what can be done there, and maybe kind of formalizing that process for young people to be able to have someone that is able to guide their process, and give them perspective that they would not have the experience to think about at that point in time, and to also be able to kind of guide future steps, so that you're a bit more targeted, and you really know, like, this is where I'm headed, and how you can get there. So organizations like C just really bridge that gap for their young persons who are looking to get an entrance into what it's like to be in the world of work, how they want to contribute, what they might be interested in, but then also bridging those opportunities of, here is a, an initiative that can support you, here are people that can support you, here's a kind of community that you can build with other young people who, it's funny because you get older. This was about 7.5 years ago, and then you see your counterparts, they're doing big things, and you're alongside them doing big things, and you can probably partner and or be able to connect with each other, share your networks and all those sort of things. So I think organizations like Seed really are able to kind of bridge that, and it's very important for young people who really want to be able to contribute positively, and have some work under their belt that they can be proud of.
Yeah. So if you have an idea for a nonprofit organization to help youth, or a way that your business can help youth, or you have some method that you can leverage support for youth, if you can create that place of community that Asantie is talking about, the opportunity for clarity and direction to help them to know where they want to go, be timely in this 25% of unemployment. Young people with lots of energy and lots of ideas need outputs and need direction for where to channel all of that energy. And so it can be very timely, especially if, as Asantie mentioned, you're providing mentorship and guidance. Again, not necessarily do this, do that, but overall guidance to help support them, acknowledging that they're intelligent themselves, right, and that they have something to offer, and not just following direction. So thank you for that. So if you are a small organization or a youth related organization, be encouraged from what Asantie is sharing with us in terms of why your organization is so important. So where is Seed going next? What is on the horizon for this small organization?
Well, I think the theme for that would be response, in terms of what would have come out of the research, but also being responsive to like what we're seeing. You would have started the show with different statistics, or where we are in the world, and being an organization really wanting to be able to address and support exactly where it is needed, being abreast of those challenges, and wanting to create implementable, scalable solutions and initiatives that will be able to address those things. So for now, we have several programs on the horizon. Some we would have, piloted so far, but that seek to address, several issues that we would have started to look at in terms of challenges that we could address as an organization at Seed.
And if I may, who is we? Are we other young people, or like the original people who started it? Who came up with the new programs?
So me as an ambassador, a Seed ambassador, there are several other young people who serve in the same capacity, and these would have been those of us who actually came through the program. So as I am able to speak on, this experience that really impacted me, that has, helped shape how I've moved forward and what I've pursued. There are other young people from my cohort, but also from other cohorts. I don't think I might have mentioned this, but Seed has actually placed over 70 young people in small and medium-sized enterprises across Barbados through a partnership with local businesses. And so there are several of us who are now ambassadors serving in that capacity, who have sought to be that response and come up with initiatives that would be able to address those issues and challenges that we would have identified well in our time or our initial engagement with Seed. So other amazing young people had the opportunity to either work with directly or come into contact simply because we're now all ambassadors of the organization.
So not just old people sitting in a room saying this is what y'all need to do, but young people are developing programs for young people.
Yeah, and that has been a great process in and of itself. I want to say other people because you're gonna make me say old people, the older people, and having, but still understanding that they do help us and guide that process as we think, having the big ideas. How do we operationalize this? How do we ensure that this is a sustainable initiative that we can possibly implement and that we are gearing up to implement as well. So we've had that guidance from persons who would have been organizing the program, the internship programs that is, and that would be at the leadership side of things of the organizations, whether that be trustees or those in the implementing committees. We have had that guidance, but largely these initiatives were conceptualized by young people, for young people. And these would have been in the spaces of, as I was mentioning before, a mentorship and being able to align networks so that young people can have the opportunity to find mentors and to be mentored with older professionals or more experienced professionals that will be able to give them some perspective on the space and help guide them in terms of looking at young males and boys as well, understanding that we do have quite a few young men who have come through the program and really, excelled and shined in terms of the work that we've been doing, and looking at this as a timely space for us to be able to, or for them to rather be able to create community amongst each other and be able to address issues that are male-centered or specific in our mentality program, led by some capable young men from our cohort. Also looking at getting to the root, of which myself being a host of that program, as well as one of our former cohorts as well, hosting a platform that would be able to address, just, speak on issues and challenges that youth are facing, but also looking at the strides of young people and how we're excelling and what our contributions have been to different spaces. Also looking at networking and being able to connect our different networks as we've grown and expanded our careers and gotten more experience. We're able to connect each other with different persons who we'd be able to continue to call on, perhaps partner with, collaborate with in initiatives that we are working on. Because as an organization, any organization really, operating in silo is not an efficient way to do things, and being very open to partnership and collaboration of other youth focus groups or other professionals who want to support young people. This is also important. We're not just looking at Barbados, we're looking at the Caribbean as well, and also recently having expanded seed into North America, into Canada too, just creating that space of collaboration and partnership so that we can, utilize the comparative advantage of our efforts to be able to actually make positive, lasting impact. So yeah, those are some of the areas that we have been looking to address. You can definitely look out for more information on these initiatives and how you perhaps individually or as a business or as a nonprofit can support and collaborate with us.
Yes. So I'm loving what we hear, because it's not just about some great work that was done.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not just about saying, well, this is what it's always been.
Right.
So we have to keep doing that. But you're talking about young people who went through a program, being given an opportunity to create new programs based on what they know their own peers need.
Exactly.
And then being supported in that leadership. So for those of us who are in the nonprofit sector, we look at the ladder of engagement. We look at going past just delivering service to someone. We look at going past tokenizing them. Say, oh, look, what amazing work we've done for the youth. They should just sit over there and be quiet and smile and be grateful, and we look at empowerment. We talk about empowerment, but what does that actually mean? Do we now create space at the table? As EDI is being repealed across the world at this point very quickly, there are still organizations who've been consistently and slowly divesting power to grant power to those who've not been at the table before, which is what equity is all about, right? And making sure that not only are they there, but their voices are being heard. That's what inclusion is all about, right? And do they have access to be able to make decisions, speak up, participate, take leadership, take ownership? These are the real things of EDI. It's not the check boxes and the backpacking and making yourself feel better about yourself. It's not about all the amazing things that you as a power holder and as an ally have done for others. It's about how we are doing what we need to do together. And so as we have real examples of what it looks like for older persons to divest power and to say, actually, we may not know, right? And it's okay for us to not know, right? And somebody else may know. The young people. Right. We look at all of these intersections. You sit here as a young woman, right? You sit here as a person in some spaces with privilege, in some spaces without privilege. And so how can we actually create those even playing fields so that more voices are heard, more perspectives, diversity of thoughts? I keep saying, if we commit to diversity of thought, all of the other boxes will check themselves, right? But as long as we want to continue to reaffirm our conscious and unconscious biases, and we're looking for people who are just going to say, yeah, to whatever we have in mind, then and we're never quite going to get there. And we have seen, my friends, the danger of speaking loudly in a closed box where everyone is echoing your rhetoric. We've seen the danger of this. We've seen the danger of miseducating and not completely educating our youth for generations. We see the results of this behavior. We know, we have experienced for ourselves what happens when young people are angry
Hmm.
and are has that anger fueled and then directed based on propaganda.
Hmm.
Okay. So in case nobody's catching that, that's how the Nazi movement started. Okay. We riled up a whole bunch of young people who had legitimate reasons to be upset about their situation and real energy to make change, but they were sent headfirst barreling down the wrong direction. Okay. And so as we think about empowerment of our young people, we need to really ask ourselves, are we willing to let go the places where we hold power so that young people can go forward and make those decisions? And can we be okay with the fact that it may not be what we thought it was going to be?
Yeah.
Right. And so if we are going to raise leaders beyond us and beyond our own experiences, we can't move in that fear, and we must not maintain the status quo to support our own need for power and ego.
Yeah. I
As you
think
know, if we're a nonprofit, we should be working ourselves out of a job, right? We should solve the
it is.
problem and no longer have a job, right? Not maintain the problem for ourselves.
I think that is such an important point. Um, I just think about how, for me personally, having gotten, because there were persons in leadership positions who chose to affirm me and entrust me with, the work that I had to do, as opposed, you don't know what you're doing, you're not experienced enough, why do you have these opinions, why are you asking questions, and having that experience as well. So in terms of, having young persons have a space where, they can be heard, that their opinions are validated, and that with guidance, of course, they can still seek to have these, big audacious dreams be operationalized and implemented, because they have a different perspective, something that might be able to complement what's happening before, or that, may be something new that is worth the try, because committing to the status quo has not proven to be as effective as it could be. So definitely something that I would echo in terms of having young persons be able to, actually have the opportunity to lead in some designated spaces. Like you said, working ourselves out of a job. I like I said, in terms of slowly aging out, I would love to create a space where, young persons coming up can have the benefit of that same, process that I went through, in terms of being guided to, to this space, and then, continue that with them being guided to this space, and then after them, etc. So yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So now people have heard about this amazing organization.
Mm-hmm.
You started in Barbados, have a regional expectation to expand, and you've already expanded into Canada to support youth there. Are the programs in Canada going to be identical to the programs in Barbados?
Well, they can be, but to be as responsive as possible to, the issues that are happening there. Yes, there are far-reaching issues. I'm sure there's unemployment, unfortunately, for young persons in Canada as well. But luckily, us here, we have or we will be liaising with the Seed Canada team in order to ensure that, efforts are aligned, and that, we're not, working at cross purposes or in silos, that we're actually, kind of feeding into the learnings that we've had here, that we can be able to be responsive and actually, implement worthwhile, impactful initiatives there, as well as we continue to unfold and plan and strategize in terms of what the programming in Canada can look like.
So how can people help?
Yeah, how can you help? Well, one of the main things, as we were mentioning, if what you're hearing resonates with you, your organization, please do not hesitate to reach out. We would love to explore opportunities for collaboration and partnership, so that we can, work together on any of the specific areas that you've heard that you are already working on, or that you believe that our organization can also fill a gap, that we can partner to make sure that, we have a holistic approach to the initiatives and projects that we're now 2025 and beyond. Local businesses, you being, our means they enter the world of work. If you are interested in being one of those partners, and you will be willing to host an intern or two, please, we will be reaching out at that point to garner more partnership for that program. We would love it if you are open to that, or if whether you can, if you're not in a place to do so, if you can direct us to persons or businesses in your network that would be open to it, and even if you're not in a position to do so, still be a part of the network. Perhaps there's something else that we can connect on or collaborate on as well. We will be looking to partner in terms of funding, as well as a nonprofit. We are always looking for sustainable ways to be able to fund these initiatives, so that it's, a quality experience for our interns. And so looking for support in that, in terms of being able to fund these initiatives that we have, and naturally it being a mutually beneficial situation, where we would definitely want to be aligned with what you're already funding or supporting, and we would naturally be able to support your efforts, as well as you expand your CSR and your mandates in those spaces, if you're specific to supporting youth or education or youth education. We would be happy to have that conversation with you as well. And just at a more granular level, heard about us, we're Seed, at Seed Barbados on Instagram, Seed Barbados on Facebook. Please feel free to get the word out about us, share our page, share this conversation that we've had far and wide. And feel free to connect with us at any point, if you are willing to support, our vision and the work that we've been doing.
Fantastic. Asantie, thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you
and
for
being a
having
part of
me.
this conversation. And in case you missed it, on our Point of Youth, Love Bay Radio is hosting yet another Voices of the Millennials on July 12th. So make sure that you go over to our website or connect with us on WhatsApp, Facebook, Instagram, however you get in touch with the Love Bay Radio family, to let them know that you would like your ticket, or to sponsor a young person to attend Voices of Millennials coming up this summer 2025. And friends, as always, we are here to encourage our community to bring the real conversations to the table. Don't be afraid to talk about the hard topics. Let's face it head on, so that we can move through the world and grow together. And as always, keep the conversation going.